we need to go ahead and do this chart. If you had any problems doing this on your own, or if you missed the day that we did that, I'm going to go ahead and just run through a couple of examples here. I put in what my measurements would be in inches. So the first thing is you got to just get your measurement in inches. So your height in inches, your arm span in inches, your leg, head, and hand. This example at the top, this is what I did. I have a little girl, almost 3. This is about how tall she is right here. So I get that with that. I'm going to do this with my height, just so that's going to be a little more close to what you guys are going to have here. So I have all 5 of my measurements here in inches. I got my height just because I know I'm 5'10". 5 feet is 5 times 12 because there's 12 inches in a foot. That gets me 60. So whatever you are, if you're 5 foot something, you're just going to add that to 60. So 60 plus 10 gives me of 70. Now, if you're taller than 6 foot, a couple tall people here, you're going to take 72, right? So that's 6 times 12 is 72. Then add that. So if you're 6'2", that's going to be 74. But that should get your height here. What you'll notice is arm span is almost relatively the same, give or take an inch, of what your height is. That's just a little known fact there. And then leg, head, and hand, all these are inches. So to complete this table, and this is what's going to go on slide 2 in your PowerPoint, I'm going to convert from inches to meters, then meters to centimeters. Then I'm going to take my inches here to yards. So this is just you showing me a conversion. Then we're going to take what we have in centimeters to scientific notation. And then I'm going to take my original height and scale that down so that the height is less than 15 centimeters. So we're making our superhero here. And that's going to be our height in centimeters. That's going to be the size of an action figure. The only problem now at the last point is we need to put this in Tinkercad, and that's in millimeters. So we're going to have to convert to millimeters right there. So the reason why we're doing this is showing everything we've done, right? So we got 2 conversions we're doing. We're changing to an SI, different base unit. We're doing scientific notation. We're scaling down. That's everything we've covered so far. So I think it's easier if we just do these by column. So I'm going to first convert all my measurements here to meters. So there is 39.4 inches in a meter. So I'm going to take 70, and I'm just going to divide that by 39.4 here. And when I do that, I'm pulling out my calculator here. If you don't have a calculator, go ahead and use your phone. 39.4, and I get 1.78. I'm just going to round here to 1.8 meters here. Okay, or yeah, that's fine. 1.8. Arm span, I do the same thing. This is 71 divided by 39.4. I get 1.8 again. You know, I'm going to change this to 1.77 so that these are slightly different. And I'm just going to write this as here, 1.80 meters. My leg, 39 divided by 39.4. That's going to get me 0.99 meters here. Head, I'm going to go ahead then and take 9. This should be a small number, right? Because 9 divided by 39.4. And that gets me 0.23 meters here. And then hand, I'm going to take 8 divided by 39.4. And I get 0.20. Okay, so if you need to pause this any moment, go ahead and pause. I'm just going to keep going and go through all these numbers just to show you what it'd be like. The next one is I want to convert to centimeters. So there's 100 centimeters in meters. Well, if we think of our staircase, we spent a whole day doing, unless you guys did practice problems on this. This is 2 down on my staircase. So 1, 2. Also, there's 100 centimeters a meter. This means I'm going to shift all these decimals over 2. So I'm moving this 1, 2 over. This becomes 177 centimeters here. Move this one over 2. This will become 180 centimeters right here. Move this over 2. That will just be 99 centimeters. Be 23 centimeters. And 20 centimeters here. That one's pretty straightforward because we're just moving each of these decimals over 2, right? So 0.99, 1, 2, that becomes 99. 0.23, 1, 2, 23 centimeters. This is what we talked about was the nice benefit of doing the metric system is you're just moving the decimal. Well, if we could go out of the metric system, it gets a little harder, right? Because we don't have that. So these are inches, yards. Those are similar units here. Same base systems here, but there's not a nice conversions like we had in here. So I'm going to have to take this height of 70, and I'm just going to put all these in yards right here. So I'm going to take 70 divided by 36 because there's 36 inches in a yard. So I take 70 divided by 36 right here. Let me write this one here. That's just the first one. And that's going to be equal to 1.94 yards. yards right there. We can also just abbreviate yards as YDS. Okay. So I'm going to do the same for all these. I'm going to now take 71 divided by 36. I'm not going to write it out now that you've seen what it is. This is 1.97. So we should expect those to be roughly the same here. And we're going to come down to this one. So that's 39 divided by 36, 1.1 yards here. 9 divided by 36. That's going to give me 0.25 yards. And I got right here, hand, right? So that's 8 divided by 36. That's 0.22 repeating. So I'm just go 0.22 yards. Okay, so definitely a little more complicated going from inches to yards. Way less complicated going from meters to centimeters. This is why we use the metric system here. Okay, so now I'm going to go to scientific notation, and I'm going to use my centimeter measurements right here. Okay, so remember, scientific notation, we always wanted to put the first number in the one spot. So if I take 177, right now, the decimal is after this 7. Well, I'm going to move it over. 1, 2. So now it is the first number is in this one spot. Okay, but I can't really change my number. It still needs to be 177. So what I do is I do times 10, and then I'm going to put caret here. We've been using caret. I could highlight it and then put in the exponent, clicking right here. But I'm not. I'm just going to use caret because that's what we've been using. And then I just count how many times I moved it over, right? I moved it over 1, 2. 177 is bigger than 1, so it should get bigger. So I'm going to put times 10 to the second there. Okay, so really this is 1.77 times 100 because 10 squared is 100, and 1.77 times 100 is 177. So it's the same number. We're just putting in scientific notation. Well, I'm going to do the same thing to 180. So I moved the decimal over 1, 2. So this is going to be 1.8. I moved it twice. So this is going to be times 10 to the second here. Okay, a lot of times when people do these, they want to just keep writing 10 to the second for all these and just move it over twice. We want to put this also in the one spot. So this one, I don't want 0.99. I don't want to move this over 2. I just want to, so the first number is in the one spot. Well, that's at 9. Well, in order to get this right here, that 9 in the one spot, I just have to move it over once. So this becomes times 10 to the first. Okay? Because 10 to the first is just 10. 9.9 times 10 is 99. I get the same number there. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. Move it over 1. So that's 2.3 times 10 to the first. And I'm going to do the same thing for this one, 2.0 times 10 to the first as well. All right, so that gives me these values right here. These are all in scientific notation. Those look good. So scaled down version. Now, we actually want to represent you as a action figure. Well, if you make an action figure of someone, let's your last superhero movie here, and you sell action figures the actual size of the person, no one's going to buy that, right? Maybe a couple, but you're going to lose a lot because it's going to cost a lot to make it. We need to shrink it down, okay, to less than about 15 centimeters, right? So to get it less than 15 centimeters, I'm going to take my height, and I can go ahead and just take it 70 divided by 15. So if I just do the factor, it's 4.66. I don't want it to do 4.66 as my scaled down factor. I'm going to go ahead and use 5. So I'm going to go up 1. So I'm going to take 70, my height, divided by 5. So this is going to be 5 times smaller than my actual height since I'm divided by 5. And that turns out to be 14 centimeters. Oh, I should have that on the line there. I cut that. Let's put that right there. There we go. So I'm going to do that with all these. I'm going to take 71 divided by 5. It's important that you do it for the same scale down factor because we want them to be all proportional to each other. If I change my factor, then it's no longer proportional to each other. So I'm going to divide all my original measurements by 5 here. The nice thing by dividing by 5 is I know my division by 5s, right? 1 divided by 5 is 0.2, 2 divided by 5 is 0.4, and so on here. And this is 8 divided by 5. And it's all going to be centimeters. So 71 divided by 5 right here. So I know that 5 goes into 70 14 times. 1/5 then is 14.2. Okay, I'm then going to go, let me just shift this a little bit. There we go. Okay, then I got 39 divided by 5. Okay, well, I know 35 is 7 times 4/5. So that's 7.8 centimeters. 9/5, so it goes in there one time with 4/5 left over, another 0.8 here, centimeters, and 8/5 here, right? So that goes in one time with 3 left over. That's 1.6 centimeters right here. So I was able to go ahead and do this all my scale factor right here by that scale factor. Now I can say I shrunk it 5 times, or my scale factor is 1/5. I would accept either of those as long as you understand the concept here, because it's 5 times smaller or it's 1/5 the size. Okay. The last thing is, this is our scaled down version, right? So this is the measurements of our superhero, our action figure. That's based upon your measurements. When we put this in Tinkercad, Tinkercad measures in millimeters. So the last one here, we just need to convert to millimeters. In order to do this, this is just going 1 down to the right. So I'm going to move my decimal 1 over to the right, or times by 10. So then this becomes 140 millimeters. This one would be 142 millimeters. And 78 millimeters, 18 millimeters, and 16 millimeters. Okay, so you're going to use these measurements right here in Tinkercad. I have a different video for Tinkercad, but if you were a little confused on this chart, this is how you go ahead and fill out this chart. Okay, you can take a screenshot of this and then just put this into your second slide of your PowerPoint. If you have any questions, please